I don't even know how to start this video. Charlie Kirk has been shot dead today. I actually feel kind of sick, to be honest. I feel like physically sick. And that's not because I'm not like a Charlie Kirk fan. I don't dislike him. I've seen a lot of the reels that he goes viral on that I'm sure most people have seen. Um, I think generally his opinions make a lot of sense. I don't agree with everything that he says, but what is actually going on? Like something is going on that is beyond just like this is beyond people just disagreeing with each other. This is not this is like in becoming inhuman now. I think straight away most people feel like this is some lunatic left-wing person. I feel like that's how most people feel. That's probably how the news is going to portray it. And that's probably what most people are going to jump to. And maybe that is the case, but I don't think it's that. And I can't prove it. Everything that I say in this video, because it may get a little bit spicy, is just my own opinion that I've formulated through the information that I can find. And one of the things that I found that kind of sent me in this direction was this tweet. This is from someone called Harrison Smith, and this was made not even a month ago, almost a month ago. And it says, I'm not going to name names, but I was told by someone close to Charlie Kirk that Charlie thinks Israel will kill him if he turns against them. And we're going to be looking at clips from Charlie about a month ago where he is speaking out against Israel. I don't have a political agenda. You guys know, I think politics are a load of shit. And I don't label myself with any social construct because I think they are the pillars of division. All I care about is us being humans and getting along with each other, coexisting, which we've clearly lost the ability to do. Because you don't kill someone for having a different opinion than you. You don't kill someone who says something that you don't like. That is not human. And it doesn't matter what it is. People have been online. People have been celebrating this online. People have been saying that because he was defending the Second Amendment, he deserved this. I would love to say that I think that is just bots online being trolls, and some of it probably is, but I think a lot of it is real people too, and that's scary. It's scary when people are happy that a woman just lost her husband, two children just lost their dad, because that person says something publicly that they don't like. There are over 8 billion people in the world. A lot of them are going to say things that you don't like and that you don't agree with. Do you think they should all die? Do you think someone should go and kill all those people? Like, this is ridiculous. And we're going to look at some clips soon that, what I think that this is about. I don't think this is left wing. I think this is beyond that. I think this is something darker and deeper than that. And we'll talk about that soon. By the way, we're repping the touch grass hat today because, when you wake up to news like this, you really do need to go out and touch some grass. One thing I'll say about Charlie Kirk, again, is that even though I may not have agreed with like everything that he said, he always argued his point in a pretty polite and respectful manner. Again, at least from the things that I've seen. And I have seen quite a few of his clips. I never watched his show. I never sought out his content to consume because it's just not really my thing. But, he was just a guy speaking publicly about what he believed in. And he always seemed to do it in a pretty calm way that I thought is respectful. And, he invited opposing opinions. He would obviously think that they're wrong and he would argue against them. But, discussion and debate is important. Trying to learn how the other side thinks and feels is kind of crucial to coexisting. If you can at least try to open your mind and understand why someone thinks that way, it doesn't mean you have to agree with them, but you can at least see their perspective. It becomes a bit more human now. And obviously the videos are circulating online. I've seen the videos. They are like pretty horrifying, to be honest. And you know, I grew up on the internet. I have been on rotten.com and, you know, all the websites that we used to go on as teenagers and whatever. So we've all seen some pretty dark stuff on the internet, right? There are a few videos that I can think of that just kind of have this like weird, eerie feeling to it. And what happened to Charlie Kirk is definitely one of them. When you kind of see someone go from being alive and well to basically not alive, like in a matter of seconds, you can just, when you watch that transition happen in real time, it's pretty horrifying. And I want to reiterate, like, if you think that this is a good thing, if you're happy that this happened, if you think that someone deserved this because they have an opinion that's different to yours, you are part of the problem. You are the problem. You literally are the problem. Because that means you don't know how to coexist with people who you don't agree with. And that is entirely incompatible with a harmonious existence. Learning how to live with people who don't agree with you is a requirement to live in a peaceful world because everyone is so different. Now, like anything, there are nuances to that as well. You know, if someone's beliefs are that they think they should be allowed to kill everyone, obviously that's going to be a problem too. So, you know, nothing is black and white. Nothing is black and white. And that's why understanding and empathy is important, right? Because nothing is so simple. It requires a discussion. It requires asking questions. It requires learning and knowledge to better understand why people are the way that they are. So obviously most people are asking, like, why was Charlie Kirk shot? I don't think it's a left-wing crazy person. And look, again, just like the Trump shooting, which was apparently just a left-wing crazy person who apparently didn't use social media and the whole apartment got cleaned and apparently no one really cared after he got shot and there's no real investigation into shooting a president. Kind of weird. But again, with this shooting, where this guy got shot from was not close. He was on a building at a pretty significantly sized like event. I'm sure there would have been some kind of security. It was at a university. This guy's on the building of a university with a rifle taking a long shot that he basically did perfectly in one shot. To me, that's someone who's trained and knows what they're doing. And look, I know guns are prevalent in America. Maybe a lot of people have the training to be able to do something like that. Look, I don't go too deep into this stuff because it just makes me down and upset, honestly. But one thing that I do have naturally is pattern recognition because mildly autistic. And it's just my own speculation that there is a pattern emerging here. And I think a lot of people can see it. A lot of people can see this pattern. Charlie Kirk's been doing what he's doing for a long ass time. Why now? And this is why I don't think it's a crazy left-wing person, because it happened soon after Charlie Kirk kind of began to speak out against Israel. And that's what we're going to look at in the video. So we're going to take a look at a clip of Charlie recently speaking out about Israel. And then we're going to look at a few other clips that I think tell a deeper and darker story. So this is the video. We're not going to watch the whole thing. I will leave the whole clip linked below. But I want to show this because I obviously think it's important. And I don't feel comfortable with the fact that there seems to be an emerging pattern that you can't talk about a certain group of people, and that when you do, you get called anti-Semitic. Because the reality of it is, it's got nothing to do with your religion at all. I don't care what religion you are or whatever. Again, social constructs mean nothing to me. What matters is, are you doing something that's harming people? Are you doing something that's harming a nation? Have you subverted a nation and are using it to do your bidding for you via blackmail? Because these are the themes that seem to be emerging. And let me just say this too. Even if they're wrong, even if these are just weird internet conspiracy theories that have emerged with no basis, which it doesn't really look like that's the case, but even if it is, then we should still be allowed to talk about it so that way we can find out through discussion and research that it's not true. Because if it's not true, then obviously there's nothing to hide and it's just silly, and eventually we'll work that out because, we're not stupid. We can kind of see what's going on. So again, I'll reiterate that this is just me looking into things, noticing patterns, my own speculation. Do your own research. I don't know if this stuff is true, but it certainly does seem like there is a protected group that you can't criticize. And that should be a red flag for anybody because nobody is above anybody else. Everyone should be able to be fairly criticized if there is some reasonable suggestion as to why. And if it turns out that that suggestion is false or fake, then cool. I'm sure through the discussion that we should be allowed to have about it, we'll probably be able to work that out, right? Because the truth will always come out. And it feels like, based on the landscape that we're in, that is about to happen. Either way, whether this is all bullshit, I feel like we're going to find out. And if there is truth to what we're about to look into, I feel like we're about to find that out too. And I feel like that's probably why the world feels so tense and chaotic right now. So this video is from about a month ago. Okay, so it's pretty recent. And I just want to say as well, just for like transparency and anyone who already is coding their keyboard in Dorito cheese telling me that I'm anti-Semitic just for entertaining these ideas. If you go back and look at like my oldest content, I think on TikTok, which is what I was doing before YouTube, it was very much like pro-Israel because, I do think that every country has the right to defend themselves, of course. And, I'm not married to a certain agenda or political belief. The only thing that I'm married to, the only agenda that I have is truth and prosperity for the people that live here. And if a certain group of people are obstructing that or trying to control that or ruin that, I don't care what pretend social construct you like to label yourself with, whether it's a religion, a sexuality, or a certain skin color or race. You can't hide behind that. You can't use the fact that someone is being anti-Semitic or racist for highlighting the fact that it seems like people who also fall under the category of this religion are doing something that is detrimental to society. And I will always try to keep my integrity, and follow whatever that truth seems to be. And I'll probably get things wrong along the way, and I'll be happy to put my hand up and say that. But I also think it's important to not be afraid to ask the hard questions and have the hard conversations, because avoiding them is exactly what people want. It's what these people want. If this is true, they want you to avoid it. They want you to feel like you can't speak up out of fear of being called a racist. So let's take a look at this video. This is about a month ago.
You and I are both supporters of Israel and have defended Israel since the beginning of this conflict and spoken out about the anti-Semitism that has erupted on these college campuses many, 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 many times. And something's happening, though, with this whole debate that is really bothering me, and I wonder if you're feeling it too. So I genuinely believe you'd be hard-pressed to find somebody in the public eye who's been as outspoken a defender of not every move Israel's taken in the war, but of Israel's right to defend itself and of the just backward awfulness that we've been seeing on college campuses and the backlash against American Jews than yours truly. I mean, I have been at the pointy end of the spear on this, and
I completely agree with that.
And it was all heartfelt, and it remains heartfelt.
Yes.
However, my contention here is that some in the pro-Israel camp are so knee-jerk about calling you anti-Semitic or getting deeply offended if you say anything that doesn't align with their narrative, that it undermines their own cause. And I have to tell you, I find it very irritating because I do feel like some of us have earned the right to have some credibility on the subject of Israel and don't want to be called those names when we have some mild pushback on some of the overreaches, whether it's
I just want to say as well, I don't even think you need to earn credibility to be able to criticize someone. Okay? If we all have a right to have an opinion, and if something feels off, people have a right to voice it.
Also, with respect to, you and I speculated about this at the Turning Point event, whether the possibility of Jeffrey Epstein possibly being a Mossad agent or asset or affiliated with, that's been turned around on me too, to you must be anti-Semitic. What the hell? That's so.
See what I'm saying? Jeffrey Epstein, possibly a Mossad agent. I mean, bro, look into it for 5 minutes. It's pretty obvious that he was. Being called anti-Semitic for suggesting that is absurd. And this is the tactics that are used. People are hiding behind religion and relying on people without critical thinking skills to defend them. But also the issue is people who get too emotionally aroused by this and they start calling, like they start lumping it in as just Jews full stop. Because it's not Jews. There are many, many beautiful Jewish people. Most of them are. Most of them are. Most of them are good people just like me and you. So you can't paint them all with the same brush, just like there are radicals everywhere. There are radicals in every ideology, every religion.
Such bullshit. The same people who say you can criticize Israel, that's fine. We won't call you anti-Semitic if you criticize Israel. Now turn around immediately and say you're anti-Semitic for even raising that. I completely reject that. And I raise this as a pushback against my friends on that particular strain of the aisle to watch it, because you don't want to alienate people who are openly your friends by going nuts in your crackdowns on mild pushback on anything related to Israel. Now you take it.
I'm so glad you brought this up, and I would second that, Megan. I think I have a bulletproof resume showing my defense of Israel, both on campus, on social media, to great, let's just say mockery and scorn at times, because I believe it, right? I believe in the scriptural land rights given to Israel. I believe in fulfillment of prophecy. However, and I will say this, the behavior by a lot, both privately and publicly, are pushing people like you and me away. Not like we're going to be pro-Hamas, like we're going to, but we're like, honestly, the way you are treating me is so repulsive. I have text messages, Megan, calling me an anti-Semite. Again, I just want to repeat for the 5th time, I love Israel. I want Israel to win. But my moral character is now being put into question, Megan. Not my decisions. Not like, hey, are you doing this? Is it smart?
It's funny as well, like Charlie Kirk there is saying for the 5th time, I like Israel. Yeah, and you can probably tell when I make these videos, I feel like I need to reiterate 50 times that, like, this isn't about all Jewish people. This isn't about all Israelis at all. But you feel like you have to, because like just talking about it feels like people are going to attack you just for bringing it up. And that fact in itself is the biggest red flag to me, because no one is why are you above everyone else? Why can I not criticize you, but it's okay to criticize Muslims or whatever, right? We're all equal here, which means we're all subject to equal criticism if there's reason to do so. And this is what's important as well, is that I really hope that if there are Jewish people or Israelis that are watching this, I would really hope that you agree with what I'm saying. Because when people talk about this stuff, they're not talking about the normal people like you. For example, I'm Australian. If my government or country started behaving in ways that felt inhumane or putting in place policies that felt like they were detrimental to mankind coexisting peacefully, I would detest that. I would vocally say, I might be Australian, but I'm not proud of the country that I come from and what they're doing. You know, I would feel a moral obligation. I would actually feel more of a moral obligation as an Australian to loudly say that I do not agree with this and I do not stand with this, because I wouldn't want to be associated with that. I wouldn't want people to assume that as an Australian that I agree and share the beliefs of my government and the actions that they're taking. I would feel more inclined to be vocal, actually.
And now you have a couple of comments like, well, what about this? Well, has it gone on too long? Like, is it time to wrap it up? And the thing about Epstein is just so bizarre. I don't know who he was an agent for. It might have been Israel or an asset, or it might have been no.
Come on, Megan. Come on, please.
Nobody. Yeah. But we're allowed to speculate about that. It's like there's some rule. You can't go there when it comes to Israel.
Well, you and I believe that we're Americans and Americans first, period. End of story. We are citizens of this nation, okay?
That's right.
And Israel, we have funded, we have supported, and they're up against a sea of Islamic totalitarianism, and we should be cheering for them, right? Because they're up against barbarians and monsters, and we want them to win. However, here is Megyn Kelly and Charlie Kirk combined, probably 30 million social media followers, like pretty, right? And you and I have been holding this down, and you probably get the negative, oh, you're just shilling for Israel, whatever. I'm like, okay, I'm going to do what's right regardless of the feedback, right? But then all of a sudden, like, I host a person that I moderate the debate of, mind you, right? And I give equal time to Josh Hammer, equal time to a pro-Israel advocate, and my moral character is being put into question. And so I think it's a hyper paranoid, like, we're just going to try to, we're going to just stamp out everything type of practice. But it goes to the point where, if, for example, if I have less ability sometimes online to criticize the Israeli government without backlash than actual Israelis do. Mm-hmm. And that's really, really weird, isn't it, Megan? All of a sudden, oh, Charlie is he's no longer with us and all that. I said, wait a second, what do you mean? What does with us mean exactly, right? Mm-hmm. I'm an American, okay? Like, I represent this country, and I don't even understand that paradigm. But Megan, I think you would agree with this. I want to make sure we really zero in on this. Personality types like you, myself, and Tucker, the more that you guys privately and publicly call our character into question, which is not isolated, right? Megan, it would be one thing if it was one text or two texts. It is dozens of texts.
Yes.
Then we start to say, hold the boat here.
I think the message is pretty clear, right? Reasonable people who may have been on your side don't like it when you turn around and say you're exempt from criticism. People with a good moral compass and critical thinking skills will immediately identify that as a red flag. All humans are equal. No one is exempt from criticism if you are doing something that could be deemed disruptive. So after watching that clip of Megyn Kelly and Charlie Kirk, I sort of went digging on a few things. And obviously we looked at this clip the other day, right? And I can't get past the idea that it feels like America is at some level subverted and is being used because, you know, the majority of Americans, I think, don't want to be at war. Who wants to be at war? It is not natural human behavior to want to be at war. I think most Americans would agree with me that there are enough problems in America right now with American people that most of the focus should be on America, making America better, fixing America. And we could apply this to every Five Eyes country, by the way. They're all the same. It's weird, isn't it? It almost feels like you've got Five Eyes and then you've got Israel. And they're all allies. It's weird how Israel isn't in the Five Eyes alliance, though, but they are an ally. It's weird how every one of those in that alliance, except Israel, is basically facing the same issues as well. They're all facing the same sort of like economic crisis, mass immigration, basically feeling like they're on the brink of some kind of civil war or civil unrest. People are struggling to live. People can't really afford to have like a normal life with just sort of a job. a little, a little house, little family, just average income. That's not really, it doesn't really work anymore. And then when you add in the Epstein stuff and like the reason that we just can't get this list, we can't, like, this list just won't come out. It seems like there is obstruction there. And then there are all the ties of Jeffrey Epstein to people in Hollywood, people in politics, and people in science as well. And this idea of a blackmail operation happening in all of those areas. So given all of that, this video to me is kind of telling.
Every American sitting at home right now needs to realize that you are paying for a genocide. Take this one.
Rise up, America, rise up. It is time to take back this country from these corrupt politicians. It is time. It is beyond time.
Now, for me, it's not really about the, you need to realize you're paying for a genocide. Obviously, no one wants to do that. But what's really impactful here, I believe, is first of all, these are two high-level, very high-level military people who are being arrested for voicing their opposing opinion for the war in the Middle East, or at least America's involvement in it. They don't want to be involved in it. And they're being arrested for having that opinion. Just like let that soak in and think about what that means. High-level American military personnel are being arrested because they don't want their country to be helping another country wage a war on the other side of the world. Again, this is all just my own speculation. I'm happy to be wrong on some of this. But after looking into this stuff, what's happened to Charlie Kirk, a month after beginning to voice his concern about Israel, the fact that high-level American military personnel are being arrested for voicing their opinion about Israel, and the fact that this Epstein list just won't come out. It's like someone connected to it isn't allowing it to come out. And there seems to be ties that go back to Israel. So I did a little bit of digging, and I found a couple of clips from Texas Mars and a lady named Loren Morit. And both of these speeches are quite old, by the way. But, I've spoke about it on the channel lightly before, and the video got demonetized. So I'm trying to be careful here. But we've spoken about the Khazarian Mafia, which has its ties back to, not even back to Israel, but back to Jewish people. But again, it's important to be clear for the 50th time, just in case, we're not talking about all the Jewish people here. And in fact, when we're talking about Khazarians, we are talking about people who are masquerading as Jewish, people who are Jewish on the public facing side of things. But the reality is, in private, they are not Jewish at all. In fact, they worship older gods or false gods and deities. But, that's probably something for another video.
These are men of the Illuminati. They are Jewish. They have been using the United States as their proxy because for many years they have sought to gain control of the United States, because even today, this is what is called the last great superpower on earth. To get their way, they must control the United States. With the United States, then the United Nations and all of the rest of the nations of the world, including, of course, the European community, will come under their sway. I believe the Jewish ADL and the B'nai B'rith, this Jewish Masonic Lodge, my opinion is they control the FBI. Remember, the founder of the FBI, J. Edgar Hoover, was a 33rd degree Freemason. Pike is probably known as by the Masons as their greatest hero in history. He was, by the way, a Confederate Civil War general. Pike wrote a letter to Mazzini, his Italian and European counterpart, and Mason and Illuminist. And he said, our goal is a series of 3 great wars, world wars. 2 will be fought in Europe. The 3rd and final war will be fought over the Middle East.
This speech, by the way, is from about 10 years ago. It's not recent. And, you know, if the FBI really is controlled by the Illuminati, which, you know, seems to be an interchangeable term for Freemasonry, and a lot of the Freemasons also seem to be Jews. You know, if this is true, that these people control the intelligence agencies and essentially everything else below that, as crazy as that might be to suggest, because we don't know if it's true, but if it was, a lot of other things in life right now that feel crazy, that just don't make sense, suddenly do make sense. Like, this does kind of give an answer as to why countries are acting in certain ways, why certain things won't come out, why there seems to be this ongoing and endless obstruction at the highest levels, that even the Congress are trying to pass bills and investigate, and they can't. And like I said to you guys in a video the other day, when the American Congress is trying to investigate things and get answers, and is being told by intelligence agencies that they're not allowed to know, or they're being obstructed and led around in circles, that's when you know that your government, the government that you see, is not really your government. And I think a lot of people get caught up there because, you know, they just point the finger at the government and just say, oh, the government's evil. But I think a lot of the people in that surface layer of government that we see are good people who got there trying to pursue an honest political career. And then, like most of them, probably most presidents as well, they get into these positions and then they kind of get their hands tied up, and they realize that, like Paul Hellyer, ex-Minister of Defense for Canada, said when he was alive, that there is a government beyond the government. And this is apparently something Clinton told him as well, that there is a government beyond the government that they don't control. So who is that? Is it these Freemasons? Is it the Illuminati? Is it a group of Jewish people? And to hear this guy talking about 3 great wars, with the final one being had in the Middle East, and the tension that you can feel in the world right now, I don't know, man. It's scary. This next one is Lorraine Morit, and she goes in pretty hard here.
Well, these Jews, they also, in the Kabbalah and the Talmud, they are told to lie. They can lie. They take the Kel Nidder oath every year, and they're absolved of any harm. And they're told to lie about anything that promotes them or makes them richer or whatever at the expense of other people. And they are horrific predators of their own Jewish people. They have no allegiance to any country they're born in. They are born Jews, and they supposedly did not want to assimilate. The Khazars did not want to assimilate with Russia and become Christians, or assimilate with the Middle East, which was being taken over by the Islamic religion. So supposedly they joined this Kabbalah Talmud satanic practice. It's occultism. All of the top leadership of the Bolsheviks almost were Ashkenaz Jews from Brooklyn, and they were funded by the Rothschilds and the Schiffs.
So Loren's obviously talking specifically more about the Khazars, you know, Ashkenaz Jews, which people kind of claim are of Khazarian descent. And again, I think it's dangerous to sort of paint them all with that kind of brush, whether it's true or not. I think you need to speak about these things a bit more carefully. But the one thing that really struck me here is that her saying that these people, they're born Jews and they are Jewish above anything else. Think about that. As an Australian, you know, I'm Australian. I care about my country. As an American, you would care about America and your country. Jewish people look after each other because they're just Jewish. Like that's their top priority, is making sure all the other Jews are okay. It makes you wonder, like, what is this? What are these people's priority? What is their motive? And also, a weird thing that I've noticed is that you never see Jewish people struggling. Like, I've never seen a homeless Jewish person. I've never really seen them in like lower socioeconomic areas. They're always kind of doing pretty good. I don't know, man. This stuff is wild. It's hard to talk about, honestly. And I don't want to be making this video. I don't want people to come away from this video and think like, oh, Josh is saying the Jews killed Charlie Kirk. Because I don't know. I don't know. But I feel like when you look at what's going on around the world and you look at the patterns, at the very least, this needs to be in the conversation, because if you don't look outside the box and think about those kind of things and you just jump on the immediate knee-jerk reaction and assume that this was some kind of political left versus right thing, then you are just propagating the chaos and the hatred between the people. When in reality, there might be a dark force that is not part of the people, that is operating in an untouchable realm, that when you question it or even begin to open discussion about the idea that there could be something else going on, and you look in that direction, you get criticized. And I think people need to maybe just start asking why that would be. Why are people getting attacked for suggesting that Jeffrey Epstein was an intelligence asset for Israel when basically everything seems to suggest that? No matter what your beliefs are, no matter where you're from, religion, whatever, no one deserves to be killed for having a different opinion. And that is the bottom line. Whatever this was, why, it's wrong. And I think anyone who doesn't see it that way needs to take a look in the mirror. I think I'll wrap this one up there, guys. I've been yapping for a while, a bit of a different video. It's a sad day to see something so horrible like that happen in front of so many people. Kids lost their dad, someone lost their husband, all because someone didn't like their opinion. So thank you guys for watching. If you're interested in those clips that we just watched at the end there, we could look at the full versions in a live stream perhaps. I'd be open to doing that. But let me know what you think in the comments. Again, remember, we're all humans at the end of the day. We're all actually on the same team. I think there is something going on that has a strong grip on America that is much darker and deeper beyond any kind of silly little political squabble that people have with each other. So guys, remember, be kind to each other, be empathetic, get outside, touch some grass, go and get yourself the hat from the merch store. The link is below. I appreciate all the support, and I'm praying for America today. Take care.